Thank you very much to our last panel. It's really good to get all these views, and again we're very honored to have today a friend of the OAS of our program. We need to say that, and as we have mentioned before, the activities that we undertake at the OAS are possible thanks to the support of key governments like Canada, the United States, the United Kingdom. Our next keynote speaker is Mr. Christopher Painter. He is the coordinator for cyber issues at the United States Department. We want to thank him personally for all the support that has provided to this program, to this organization, and we want to welcome you and want to invite you to deliver our final remarks, and welcome Chris to the OAS.
Thanks. Thank you. Well, first, I'm very, very happy to be here, and as I said, I've been doing various cyber issues now for 23 years. I was a prosecutor, I was at the White House, now I'm at the State Department, and I've been working with OAS since 2003, so that's, I guess, 12 years. So back when people didn't really think about this as much, I think the OAS was one of the leaders in thinking about this issue. And I certainly want to thank the OAS, the Department of Homeland Security, the Cybersecurity Alliance Board, and all of you for hosting this meeting, this very productive meeting all week, and today this launch for Cybersecurity Awareness Month. And I should say that for many years now, I've wanted to make sure that there was an international component to our U.S. National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and it's broader than just the U.S., and now there is. And I think this is really fitting to have it here today. It's late in the day. I will try to be relatively brief so you can then have some refreshments afterwards. I will say that, I am, as I said, I was a prosecutor, so I'm a recovering lawyer. And normally, to break the ice, you would tell a lawyer joke. But my long experience tells me that the problem with lawyer jokes is that lawyers don't think they're funny, and non-lawyers don't think they're jokes. So I won't do that. So my colleagues, it's really an honor to be here today, and this is really one of my favorite times of year. National Cybersecurity Awareness Month for us, and increasingly for other countries and regions around the world, is very important. And we like to say it's not just today, it's all month, all 31 days, and it's not just this month, it's really all year, but this is where it gets some special attention. During this week, you've discussed and shared your experiences and best practices for cybersecurity. You've looked at what works and what doesn't. The panelists today, and I just heard some of them, and the keynote speakers, including my now longtime friend, President Ylvis, who I heard was a big hit over lunch from Estonia, and Shema Alonso, and all of you are leaders in our efforts to promote cybersecurity due diligence. Through all of your efforts, we have made, I think, significant progress over the years, and I commend and I thank you for your work and commitment to ensuring that the intended availability, integrity, and confidentiality of online data and services is unaffected, or as unaffected as it can be, by malicious threats. And I've certainly seen in my career a real change, not just in terms of the threats that we face, which have increased obviously very substantially over the last 23 years, but in our response, in our global response to these threats, and the fact that we work together more and more, we build more capacity around the world, we pay more attention at a very high level in our governments to this. And so I thank you for those efforts. I think in your work you've modeled exactly what we need to do for cybersecurity due diligence. You have set the example today and this week on how we can cooperate on network defense, collaborate on mitigation and prevention, and build awareness. Our world, as you all know, is increasingly connected, and more of our lives are online, and we're more dependent on online services. But the more that we depend on those services and the more that we can use those services, the more vulnerabilities that creates, and the more that attackers try to take advantage of those vulnerabilities. As the internet is an interconnected and shared space, so is the responsibility for security of the data and the systems and infrastructure of that online space. To quote our favorite phrase during this month, our cybersecurity is a shared responsibility. And it's a shared responsibility among all the different actors, government, private sector, civil society, but also among all the governments of the world and all of our countries and all of those different communities. As we start Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we are promoting around the world that cybersecurity, as I said, is a shared responsibility. We have a shared responsibility to cooperate on network defense, with malware available for rent and criminals and malicious actors operating in essentially what are now market conditions. You can buy for as little as $100, and many of you know this. You can rent a piece of malware to rob a bank of millions of dollars or to cause other mischief. Ransomware has now become the storyline in TV shows. Some of those TV shows are not that great. Some are better than others, but it's become really part of the media and the culture. And our online world and its infrastructure and systems need a strong defense. Just as banks learn to secure their systems and facilities and their cash from the thieves of the past, the physical thieves, we too must build stronger network defenses from the criminals and malicious actors of today and tomorrow. Yet higher walls and bigger barriers do not mean that we are safer. As we build our walls higher, criminals and malicious actors find clever ways to scale those walls. They have bigger ladders. They're able to poke holes in them. But I think what's important as we come together to think of creative solutions, we've seen, especially in this organization, for more than a decade, a demonstration of our strength and the collective wisdom that when we share information with each other, we're all smarter and safer. We must cooperate in our defense. And no defense is ever perfect. I think we all know that. There is no silver bullet. We must collaborate on our efforts to prevent and mitigate incidents and exploitations. When U.S. financial systems were under attack, a denial of service attack, a botnet attack several years ago, we worked together with governments around the world, but also with the private sector and others to try to mitigate that threat, because these were distributed challenges. There were these bots all over the world, and that could shift from day to day, so it was important to work together, including working together diplomatically. We had our technical experts, we had our law enforcement experts, and we had our diplomatic efforts to try to create this more shared responsibility, shared approach to common threats. I think your work this week and the discussions this week is really the foundation of that kind of cooperation, that kind of framework. Our relationships and partnerships are critical to mitigate both all the challenges that we face. And with this experience and with these relationships come responsibility. And the responsibility is to promote cybersecurity due diligence among ourselves, in governments, academia, the private sector, and civil society. All of us have a role to play in cybersecurity as industry leaders, as policy professionals, as online users, as parents, as students, as employees, and consumers. We could have the strongest network defense and the best systems to try to prevent and mitigate attacks, but if our users and the people who make up our systems and infrastructure are not cyber aware, it really won't matter. And I've seen this again and again in some of the attacks that I've seen and some of the intrusions I've seen, that we're much stronger working together and trying to reach out to those people. Now, to be sure, cybersecurity awareness now is much better than it was 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I've seen a real uptick even in the last few years, but we have a long way to go, and this is one of our responsibilities to get out there. I'll give you an example. A colleague of mine told me this story. She shared the story of the exploits of her godson. He's a very smart, talented, young 12-year-old. And he had a crush on a girl at school. And as you might remember, when you were all that age, he was trying to get her attention. And he decided to get her attention, he would create a program that appeared to take command and control over her computer. It's sort of a cross between ransomware and a zombie. Of course, he was 12. So it was really merely a program that appeared on a computer. It really didn't take it hostage. It really wasn't ransomware. And he didn't actually try to obscure who he was. He actually, because he wanted her to contact him, put his name and phone number on it. And he, said, if you want your computer back, contact me. Now, as you might guess, this got him into some trouble. Got him into trouble with his school, with his parents, with his godmother. But my point is that we really need to start teaching the ethical uses of this technology and teach our children, and really not just talk about this at a policy level and a technical level, but really inculcate this through all of society. And also educate them about the vulnerabilities and risks that they face online. So this is not just a topic for high-level discussions like this, but this is a topic for all of us to bring home. You all know our weaknesses regarding cybersecurity include a lot of different things, weak passwords, et cetera, and that really means often the weakest link is the user, and educating the user and getting the user to understand this, and getting businesses and others to understand it, and getting governments to understand it. So we need to educate ourselves on good practices, and we must model ourselves so that other people can follow those models. Educating our users is certainly an ongoing task. It is not a one-time activity. It is not an activity we do today or this week or this month, but really year-round. But we should take the opportunity of Cybersecurity Awareness Month and the resources of the Stop, Think, and Connect campaign, or Uruguay's Seguro de Conectas, or Canada's Get Cyber Safe, or literally, as I was coming over here, I got an email from my colleagues in Japan saying they just launched a cybersecurity awareness campaign for this month as well, and many others are. To name just a few, to create a more understanding, a more educated, and smart online users at all levels. We know that cyber threats are constantly evolving, and we must remain diligent and aware of the consequences of online activity. To do this, one of the things that I've done in a diplomatic sense is we reached out to all of our embassies all over the world, and we asked our cyber folks, we have cyber savvy people at each of our embassies who are looking at the full suite of cyber policy issues, to engage with their counterparts and other people in the countries that they are, to try to figure out how they can raise cybersecurity awareness. We have enormous resources. The Stop, Think, and Connect campaign is in multiple languages. The EU has resources. The OAS has great resources. Japan has resources, and more are out there. And I think if we share those resources and make sure people have access to them, that will spread the wealth. That will get more people helping us build our defenses and understanding what the issues are. In this way, cybersecurity awareness raising is also about capacity building, in my view. And that's been a big part of our efforts internationally, is to do more capacity building, including partnering with the OAS. In April, the US joined Argentina, Canada, Chile, Mexico, the Organization for American States, and others as founding members of the Dutch-led Global Forum for Cyber Expertise, known as the GFCE. This was launched at their big cyber conference that I attended at The Hague. And this effort strengthens and reinforces the existing framework of international cooperation on, I think, the critical issue of cyber capacity building around the world, and adds new partnerships, both public and private, to this effort. It's essentially a forum that highlights ongoing and new cyber capacity building initiatives and tries to raise them up and get even more attention to them. And the United States and Canada were very proud to put forth in that, as part of one of those initiatives, that highlights some of the cyber safety resources that I just talked about. The goal is to encourage partners to work together to increase global cybersecurity awareness worldwide, and I think that's something we continue to partner with the OAS in each of the countries and individuals in this room on. So for the remaining 30 days, or actually 29 days, I guess, of October, depending on how you count it, I ask that each of you do the same by recommitting yourself to raising awareness about cybersecurity. Share your knowledge with your coworkers, make your office a good example of good practice, teach your children and friends about safe online practices, raise this within your governments and companies, connect to those young folks, like the young hacker I talked about, and teach them and talk to them about ethical uses online and what they should be aware of. Think about the devices in your life that are interconnected, the Internet of Things, which is, I'm sure you've heard about this week and read about, that is really now taking over. And I'll tell you one quick story about the Internet of Things. I was on a panel recently, actually down in Costa Rica, with the head of ICANN, Fadi Shahadi, and he talked about a story of these interconnected things, including refrigerators, who were used to attack a bank, because as part of a botnet. And I said that gave a whole new meaning to freezing your assets. But it is a challenge, and again, we keep seeing these threats evolve, become new, and I think become more challenging, but the only way we're going to be able to meet that is to work together. I also wanted to call your attention to one other thing that just came out yesterday, and that is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD's revised recommendations on digital security, risk management for economic and social prosperity. And that recognizes that security is a core part of economic prosperity as well. It's not the economic issues and the security issues, they go together. And that aims to provide guidance on economic and social prosperity dimensions of digital security risk. An example of our collaboration at the policy level between public and private sectors, the OECD recommendation provides really, I think, a coherent framework of principles to guide public and private organizations in the development of their digital security risk management strategies. So all of those, I think, are good things, and there are many more things that are in the works, but I think much more needs to be done as well. And again, I wanted to commend all of you in this room for all of your efforts. And going forward, this is something where 10 years from now, when I've done this for far longer than I could even think about, I want to look back and say we've made even more progress. So I want to congratulate all of you. I will end with a final joke before we go for drinks. And that's, I said I was a recovering lawyer as a former prosecutor. So this was a lawyer joke, but I'll now make it a hacker joke. And this hacker is walking down the beach. He finds a lamp, he rubs it, and predictably enough, a genie comes out. And the genie says, well, you get 3 wishes. But because you're a hacker, there are some strings attached. Everything you wish for, every other hacker gets twice as much of. And the hacker says, okay, I can deal with that, that's fine. And the genie says, what do you want? He says, well, my first wish is I want 1 million stolen credit card numbers. So he gets 1 million stolen credit card numbers, but every other hacker gets 2 million stolen credit card numbers. And you know, hackers are very competitive people, so it just irks him. He doesn't like this. And the genie says, well, what's your second wish? And the hacker says, well, I want a big Cray supercomputer, a big, powerful supercomputer. Well, he gets that, but every other hacker gets that plus Watson, the IBM computer that won on Jeopardy. And so, again, he's really irked. And the genie says, hurry up, what's your third wish? I need to get back in the bottle and watch TV. What do you want? And the hacker pauses and he thinks about it, and he says, I'd like to donate a kidney. So every other hacker donates 2 kidneys, they all die. So the lesson of that joke, if there is a lesson, is that the only way, and I've seen this through my whole career, the people who attack systems, the people who would like to render us more vulnerable as we get more dependent on these systems, they're becoming more clever. They look at new ways of attacking systems or intruding into systems. They band together. There are transnational organized groups. There are lots of threats out there. There's a lot of good work being done. There's a lot of good work in this room being done. But the only way that we're going to be able to really succeed is for all of us to work together, both within our countries at all levels, with education and awareness, but also between our countries. So I'm very happy again to be here in this beautiful hall and see all of you, and I'd be very happy to see you after this, so we're having a little refreshments. So thank you very much. I can take a couple questions, I'm told, unless people are so eager to get out. But if you have any questions, I'm happy to. I know it's been a long week. All right, well, what I'll do is I'll be happy to answer any questions as we're having a nice glass of wine downstairs and some refreshments. Does that make sense? Good. Thanks again.
Muchas gracias a Christopher Painter, coordinador de Asuntos Cibernéticos del Departamento de Estado de los Estados Unidos, por sus puntos de vista, por todas sus apreciaciones y todos sus aportes a la OEA. Sin más, con esto damos por finalizado la jornada. Agradecemos a todos los colegas que nos han apoyado en el día de hoy, todos los colegas del Department of Homeland Security, al gobierno de Canadá, a los colegas de Usuaria, y esperamos, como lo mencionó el ministro de TICS de Colombia, verlos el próximo año, en octubre del 2016, para lo que podría ser el lanzamiento otra vez del mes de la ciberseguridad o una actividad relacionada al mes de la ciberseguridad próximamente en este país. Esperamos contar con su presencia en ese país. Y a continuación tenemos una recepción y tenemos, creo que, un video que los colegas de usuario querían compartir. Muchas gracias por su participación y buen viaje a sus países. Esperamos tenerles pronto en la Casa de las Américas. Muchas gracias.
Bueno, muchas gracias. Ya estamos. Solamente agradecer una vez más a la OEA, a todo el equipo por darnos la oportunidad de haber venido acá a Washington por tercer año. Así que bueno, ojalá nos veamos el año que viene. Y bueno, buenas tardes a todos. Ahora hay un cóctel. Gracias. Buen viaje a la vuelta.